Imagine the day Logan Brown finally breaks his silence. Picture the scene. The studio lights are dim, the atmosphere is heavy with anticipation, and millions of people around the world are holding their breath. Sitting in a chair, calm but resolute, looking directly into the camera lens with a gaze that mirrors the intensity of a man who has held secrets for far too long, he says, "I am the eldest son of the Brown family, and today I am going to tell you the truth." That single sentence, delivered by the one person who has meticulously stayed out of the fray, could finish Kody Brown forever. We aren't talking about cryptic social media posts or subtle jabs in a confessional. We are talking about the nuclear option. What secrets could Logan reveal? Will he finally open the books on the hidden financial transactions that decimated Janelle's savings? Will he speak on the tragic reality of Garrison's final days and the father who wasn't there? Today, we are going to walk you through a detailed, futuristic prediction of that historic interview, an event that insiders whisper is becoming more likely by the day, and how it would shake the entire Sister Wives universe to its very core. Before we dive into the dark secrets that could bring down the entire Flagstaff empire, I need you to take a moment right now. If you believe the Brown children deserve justice and you want to be on the right side of history when the truth finally comes out, hit that like button. It sends a message that we are watching. And make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on, because when the news breaks, we will be the first to bring you the analysis. You do not want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's set the stage. Why would Logan, a man who has successfully built a private life away from the cameras, a man who chose a career and stability over reality TV fame, suddenly decide to burn it all down? To understand this, we have to look at the murmuring coming from sources close to the family. For years, the narrative has been that Logan is simply private. But reports suggest it's not just privacy, it's protection. He has been the silent observer, the vault of the Brown family secrets. But every vault has a breaking point. Theories are circulating that the tipping point isn't just one event, but a culmination of injustices that have finally pushed the eldest son too far. We are looking at a scenario where the continued financial abuse of his mother, Janelle, and the devastating emotional negligence shown toward his siblings, particularly in the wake of recent tragedies, forces his hand. Imagine the interview begins not with anger, but with a cold, hard explanation of the timeline. The host, perhaps Oprah or a similarly high-profile journalist, asks the question everyone wants to know: why now? And Logan's answer would likely reshape our understanding of the last decade. He wouldn't talk about growing apart or COVID protocols. He would talk about systematic abandonment. He would explain that his silence was a mercy, a way to keep the peace for the sake of the younger siblings. But now that the family is fractured beyond repair, and Kody and Robyn continue to rewrite history to paint themselves as victims, the truth is the only weapon left. This isn't just about gossip. This is about accountability. The first major bombshell to drop in this theoretical interview would undoubtedly be the money. This is where the insider reports we've heard for years would finally be validated with concrete details. Imagine Logan pulling out documents, not just memories. We have heard whispers for years about the family pot, but Logan was there when the foundation was laid. He saw the transition from Lehigh to Vegas to Flagstaff. He knows where the bodies and the bank accounts are buried. The theory is that Logan could expose a complex web of financial maneuvering that was designed to funnel family resources directly into assets solely controlled by Kody and Robyn. Think about the implications. We aren't just talking about bad budgeting. We are talking about potential fraud. The exclusive theory here is that Logan could detail how TLC paychecks, which were meant to be distributed among the wives to secure their children's futures, were instead diverted into LLCs that only Kody and Robyn could access. He could describe the conversations that happened off camera, the coercive meetings where wives wives were told to invest their share into the Coyote Pass property, a property that has sat undeveloped while Robyn's mansion is filled with expensive art and collectibles. Logan could walk us through the math of how Janelle, the primary breadwinner for years and the financial wizard of the family, ended up in a rental apartment with nothing to her name, while Robyn sat on a literal gold mine. This segment of the interview would be devastating because it strips away Kody's defense of trying to lead the family. It reveals the leadership as a scam. Logan could recount specific instances where requests for funds, for college tuition, for medical bills, for basic necessities for the other households were denied by Kody, claiming poverty, all while cash was flowing freely into the legal and personal expenses of the fourth wife. This paints a picture not of a patriarch struggling to manage a large family, but of a CEO embezzling from his own company. The audience would learn that the poverty the other wives faced wasn't a result of the lifestyle. It was a result of theft. But the financial betrayal is only the tip of the iceberg. As the interview progresses, the tone shifts from the cold calculation of money to the visceral pain of emotional abuse. This is where the narrative turns dark. The insider reports suggest that what we saw on TV was a sanitized version of reality. Logan, being the eldest, saw Kody before the cameras were always rolling. He remembers the father Kody used to be, and he witnessed the slow, agonizing transformation into the man we see today. He could speak to the but widely believed theory that Kody's love was always conditional, even before Robyn arrived, but that Robyn weaponized that conditionality. Logan could describe the environment of fear that permeated the home. He might detail how the children were pitted against each other, how affection was doled out as a reward for loyalty to Kody's whims, and withdrawn the moment a child expressed an independent thought. We have seen glimpses of this with Isabel's surgery and Gabriel's birthday, but Logan could reveal that these weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern of emotional neglect that started years ago. He could tell the story of the lost boys, the sons who were cast aside because they reached an age where they could challenge their father's authority. He could describe the heartbreaking reality of seeing his younger brothers, like Garrison and Gabriel, desperate for a father's approval that was never coming unless they kissed the ring of the favorite wife. This part of the interview would destroy Kody's victim narrative. Kody loves to claim that his wives turned the children against him. Logan, with his calm demeanor and unassailable credibility, could dismantle that lie in seconds. He could look the camera in the eye and say, "Mom never had to say a word. We have eyes. We saw who you prioritized. We saw who you spent your time with. We saw who you bought gifts for." The power of the eldest son saying this is unmatched. He was the surrogate father to many of his siblings. He was the one making breakfast, getting them ready for school, being the stable male figure when Kody was busy. For Logan to say, "I stepped up because you stepped out," would be the final nail in the coffin of Kody's reputation. And then the conversation would inevitably turn to Robyn. This is the moment the internet would break. Up until now, most of the criticism of Robyn has been from the audience or vague allusions from the other wives. Logan could provide the smoking gun. The theory is that Logan could expose Robyn's manipulation not as a passive-aggressive trait, but as an active, calculated strategy. He could share stories of private family meetings where Robyn would speak for Kody, translating his words, reinterpreting his feelings, and effectively cutting off direct communication between the husband and his other wives. He could reveal how Robyn used her tears not as a sign of sorrow, but as a gavel to end conversations she didn't like. Imagine hearing about the text threads we've only heard rumors about. Logan could reveal the contents of group chats where Robyn would play the victim victim to guilt trip the other wives into submission. He could expose how she systematically isolated Kody, feeding his paranoia that everyone was out to get him, until he viewed his own children as enemies. This isn't just about being a favorite wife. This is about alienating a father from his bloodline. Logan could clarify the timeline of the COVID rules, confirming the long-held suspicion that the rules had nothing to do with health and everything to do with control. A convenient excuse manufactured by Robyn to keep the family separated so she could have Kody all to herself. If exposing the financial fraud and emotional manipulation of Kody and Robyn wasn't enough to shatter the foundation of the Sister Wives universe, the next segment of this hypothetical interview would target the very machine that built their fame. We're talking about the network itself. For years, fans have speculated about how much TLC knew and how much they protected the patriarch to keep the show on air. Logan, having grown up with cameras in his face since he was a teenager, knows exactly where the bodies are buried in production. The exclusive theory here is that Logan could reveal the extent of TLC's complicity in maintaining Kody's facade. He could detail how producers often intervened to soften Kody's image in the early seasons, editing out his more volatile outbursts to present him as a quirky but loving goofball rather than the tyrant he was becoming. Imagine Logan explaining that the contracts the family signed were designed to trap the wives financially while giving Kody disproportionate control over the narrative. He could expose the reports that Kody negotiated side deals or production bonuses that the other wives were never privy to, effectively monetizing their misery while they struggled to pay off medical debts. This isn't just about bad editing. This is about exploitation. Logan could describe the pressure placed on the children to perform for the cameras, to reenact painful conversations, and to suppress their genuine trauma so the show could hit its dramatic beats. He could reveal that the therapy sessions we saw on TV were often staged or heavily guided by production to create conflict rather than resolution, trapping the family in a cycle of dysfunction for ratings. The most damning accusation Logan could level against the production is their inaction. He could recount moments where the emotional abuse was visible to the crew, where the neglect of the children was palpable, and yet the cameras kept rolling without intervention. He could argue that by continuing to fund Kody's lifestyle and give him a platform, the network validated his behavior, emboldening him to treat his family as disposable assets rather than human beings. This revelation would force the audience to confront their own role in consuming this tragedy as entertainment. It would shift the conversation from, "Look at this crazy family," to, "Why did we let this happen for so long?" But the true heart of this interview, the moment that would leave not a dry eye in the world, would be when the conversation turns to Garrison. This is the subject everyone is afraid to touch, but Logan, as the big brother who stepped in when Kody checked out, is the only one with the moral authority to speak on it. The theory is that Logan would not hold back on the reality of Garrison's final days. He would strip away the vague social media posts and the PR statements to reveal the raw truth of a son who just wanted his father's love. He could describe the specific texts, the missed calls, the times Garrison reached out to Kody only to be met with silence or, worse, criticism about his loyalty. Logan could paint a picture of the devastation that rippled through the siblings when they realized Kody wasn't coming to save them. He could detail the anger and the grief that consumed the family, contrasting the profound loss felt by the boys with the apparent indifference or performative grief shown by Kody and Robyn. He could expose the rumors that Kody's reaction to the tragedy was more about managing his public image than mourning his son. Logan could reveal if Kody even attempted to reconcile in those final months, or if he stubbornly held on to his grudges until it was too late. This segment would be the emotional climax of the interview, the point where Kody is no longer just a villain on a reality show, but a failed father in the most tragic sense possible. It would be the moment the audience realizes that the sister wives story isn't a drama, it's a tragedy documented in real time. The impact of such a revelation would be instantaneous and nuclear. The fallout would begin with the legal system. If Logan provides concrete proof of the financial mismanagement, receipts, bank statements, recorded conversations, we could see immediate investigations launched. The family pot isn't just a concept, it's a legal entity. If Kody and Robyn misappropriated funds meant for the LLC to purchase personal assets like the mansion, art, or jewelry, that is potentially embezzlement or fraud. We could see the other wives, led by Janelle and Christine, filing lawsuits for constructive trust, demanding a forensic accounting of the last 10 years. Logan's testimony would be the key evidence they need. He could corroborate Janelle's claims that she was promised an asset on Coyote Pass that never materialized because the money was drained. The legal theory here is that Kody and Robyn could be forced to liquidate their assets, the house, the land, the collectibles, to pay back the other wives. Imagine the headlines. Sister wives patriarch sued by family. Logan Brown's assets frozen. It would be the end of their financial stranglehold. They would be left with nothing but the debt they created, stripped of the lifestyle they built on the backs of the women they discarded. Socially, the impact would be even more severe. Kody and Robyn are already unpopular, but this interview would turn them into pariahs. The Sister Wives fandom is vast and vocal. If Logan, the prince of the Brown family, confirms their worst suspicions, there would be no coming back. We would see a mass exodus of any remaining supporters. The public outcry would be deafening. Advertisers would drop the show faster than you can say catfish. Petitions to cancel the series would reach millions of signatures within days. TLC would have no choice but to pull the plug. The show that Kody desperately needs to maintain his ego and his wallet would be gone. But it goes beyond just cancellation. The narrative would shift permanently. No longer would people debate Team Kody versus Team Christine. The discussion would be about abuse, narcissism, and the dangers of high control groups. Kody would go down in history not as a misunderstood polygamist, but as a cautionary tale of what happens when ego is allowed to run unchecked. Robyn would be remembered not as the loyal wife, but as the architect of the family's destruction. Their legacy would be one of ruin. Meanwhile, the audience's perspective on the rest of the family would transform. They would no longer be seen just as cast members, but as survivors of a long-term psychological siege. The sympathy for Mary, Janelle, and Christine would turn into fierce protection. This interview would also likely trigger a wave of tell-alls from the other children. Once the dam breaks, the floodwaters come. Logan's bravery would empower siblings like Peyton, Gwendolyn, and perhaps even the younger children to speak their truths without fear of retribution. We could see a domino effect where every secret Kody tried to suppress comes to light. The sacred loneliness he preached would be exposed as simple neglect. The patriarchy he tried to enforce would be revealed as fragile insecurity. The entire belief system he tried to sell the world would be dismantled by the very children he claimed to be raising for God. The devastation to Kody's ego would be total. We know he craves respect and adoration. To have his eldest son, the one he once groomed to take over the family, publicly disown his actions and expose his failures would be a psychological blow he could not recover from. It would be the ultimate poetic justice. The man who demanded loyalty above all else would be brought down by the truth. The empire he tried to build on a foundation of lies would crumble, leaving him standing alone in the ruins of Coyote Pass, with nothing but the echo of his own voice and the wife who helped him destroy it all. But amidst the rubble of the empire that Kody built, there is something far more powerful rising from the ashes. This hypothetical interview wouldn't just be a list of grievances or a public execution of a father's character. It would be a roadmap for survival. The final act of Logan's testimony would shift the focus entirely. He would look into the lens, past the drama, past the headlines, and speak directly to the millions of people who have watched this family for over a decade. He would offer a message of hope, because the true story of the Brown family isn't about the man who failed them. It's about the women and children who survived him. Logan represents the possibility of a life after polygamy that is healthy, stable, and full of love. He could speak about his own journey, about finding a partner in Michelle who supports him without conditions, about building a career based on merit rather than manipulation. He could say, "I broke the cycle, and so can you." This moment would transform him from a reality TV figure into a beacon for anyone trapped in a toxic family dynamic. He would validate the pain of his siblings, acknowledging that while the trauma is real, it doesn't have to define their future. He could point to the thriving lives of Christine and Janelle as proof that leaving isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of a better one. Imagine him highlighting the resilience of his brothers and sisters. He could talk about how they have leaned on each other, how the siblings chat isn't a place of conspiracy, but a lifeline of support. He could share stories of the joy they have found outside of Flagstaff, the weddings, the graduations, the quiet moments of peace that Kody is no longer a part of. He would reframe the narrative. Kody didn't lose his family. The family found themselves. They found their voices. They found their worth. And in doing so, they rendered the patriarch obsolete. This segment would be the emotional anchor of the entire broadcast. It would leave the audience with a profound sense of closure. We would see that the Sister Wives experiment didn't fail because the family wasn't faithful enough. It failed because the system was flawed from the start. But the people within it, they succeeded. They survived. And Logan, the quiet observer, the reluctant star, would be the one to finally close the book on the era of fear and open a new chapter of freedom. He would remind us that the ultimate revenge isn't anger, it's happiness, it's living well, it's proving that you don't need a patriarch to have a purpose. As the interview fades to black, the silence left in its wake would be deafening. The world would look different. The Brown family, as we knew it, would be gone, replaced by a group of strong, independent individuals who no longer need cameras to validate their existence. Kody and Robyn would be left in their fortress of solitude, surrounded by their precious things, but devoid of the people who mattered. And the rest of the family? They would be free, truly, finally free. Now, I have a question for you. If Logan were sitting in that chair right now, ready to answer one single question with absolute honesty, what would you ask him? Would you ask about the money? Would you ask about Garrison? Or would you ask him what he whispered to his mother the day she finally left? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to see your theories. And listen, if you want to be the first to know when the next big update drops, if you want deep dives that don't just recap the show, but analyze the real human behavior behind it, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. The story isn't over yet, and we are going to be here covering every single twist and turn. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.